This video brought to you by jadedpainting.com. If you need your miniatures painted to a tabletop standard, check out jadedpainting.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of this painting tutorial. As always, my name is Jay, and I'll be showing you how I painted this Khador Conquest, one of the new awesome Colossal models for Warmachine. I continued on all of the silver metallic areas by giving them a Nuln Oil shade. If you don't have Nuln Oil, I recommend using Armor Wash from P3. Now this Nuln Oil shading will get in all the recesses and give it a lot of depth to all the metallic areas and just really darken them. If you want to make a much dirtier appearance, I recommend doing a 1-to-1 mix of Nuln Oil and Agrex Earth Shade. That way it'll produce a really dirty metal appearance. But right now I'm just trying to keep it pristine because that is what Matt, the client, really wanted. And he wanted his Khador to be very pristine and nice, so I just gave it a Nuln Oil shade. This step took a lot of time, as you probably can tell, because a lot of the model was metallic, and so there were a lot of areas to shade. So I recommend using the largest brush possible when doing this step so that it saves you a lot of time, and you can do it effectively and quickly without compromising the quality of the shading. And as always, I repeated this step on all of the metallic areas, whether it be the shoulders, the legs, and any parts of the body that were silver metallic. As with my previous shadings, if after single shading you are unhappy with the depth of color and the contrast, I recommend doing another shading. Just let the first one completely dry before doing the second one. The worst thing that you can do is start doing a second shading when the first one is still wet, because then you will actually break certain areas of the shade and it will be very obvious where one shade ended and the second one began. I did not show it, but I actually used a metallic primer on the cannon and the fingers for the Colossal, and then I just once again gave them a Nuln Oil shading. I find feather brushes are particularly useful when applying shades or washes, especially on parts like these, because they have a very large surface area on the brush and they can allow you to do a very quick shading very efficiently. And with this step finally complete, as you can see it took a lot of time, I then gave a highlight over all of these metallic areas with honed steel. If you don't have honed steel, I recommend Iron Breaker from GW, or the equivalent color from P3. And for these metallic areas, I basically just did an overbrush, or primarily a dry brush, over a lot of them, and just focused on the areas in which the light would be hitting and ignored the areas that would normally in the shade of the model. So as you can see here, like the back that would be very exposed, I gave it a very, very quick and light dry brush with honed steel just to pick up the edges and the raised details of those particular areas. Dry brushing is extremely effective, especially on areas such as the arms, where you can really see then the details between the shoulder and the arms. Just whenever doing dry brushes like this, I recommend just keeping as minimal amounts of paint on your brush as possible, and just do very, very strategic and consistent brush strokes along the areas so that it just produces a really nice dusted appearance on all these silver parts. And then I did one more very, very light dry brush over some of the silver areas, such as the body and the fingers, with polished silver, the lightest color in this specific triad from Reaper. And this is just again to bring out the very nice edge details that will shine when the light hits it correctly, and just to give some really nice tonal variation in the silver areas. I always recommend doing a base coat, a shading, and at least one, maybe two highlights whenever painting metallic areas, because that makes them really stand out and pop and not appear very flat. When the silver metallics were all finished, I then started on all the gold areas of the model by painting them Balthazar Gold, one of the new base colors from the Citadel range. Once again, I understand the hypocrisy of using Citadel colors on a privateer press model, but it's the current paints that I have on me at the moment. And this Balthazar Gold will set a really nice foundation for all the gold areas and go over the red primer and the red airbrushed areas with relative ease. I basically focused on most of the trim of the Colossal model with the Balthazar Gold, as well as the edges of the face and the middle of parts of the chimney. I also decided to paint some of the pipes gold, despite the fact that some of them will not be seen clearly when the model is put together. I just wanted to get a universal appearance while the pipes, and just in case if you can actually see these pipes when it's put back together, even from any angle. Then as you can see here, I painted the center parts of the chimneys with Balthazar Gold. When painting metallics, such as this gold, make sure to just take your time and get a really nice, even solid coverage over the prior colors. Because gold is one of those colors where if you don't get a nice even coverage, it will very easily show when the model is complete. And as you can see, there were a lot of gold parts on the model. But in the end, I think all these gold areas will give a nice regal appearance to the Khador Colossal. Once again, to save yourself some time, I recommend using the largest brush that you can possibly use on these areas, that you can do it effectively and without any errors. For the legs, I just want to focus on the center parts of each leg and paint those gold platings and leave the rest to be pretty much silver metallic. That way there's a nice little contrast on the legs and gives a little bit more pop to the leg areas. And with this step nearing completion, finally, we can turn our attention to giving some nice shading and highlights to these gold areas, as well as finishing up the other parts of the model.